Bible, but we have a caller on the phone that would like to weigh in with us.
We've only got a couple minutes before the
Yeah, 3 or
break.
4 minutes. We'll take a break. So let's hear what you have to say, caller.
Yeah, my question for you is, you gentlemen are moralizing about other people's behaviors in the law, and I'd like to know, as atheists, since in a previous call last week and the week before, you said that you didn't believe in any absolutes. If you don't believe in any absolutes, where do you have any objective grounding for morals or objecting to anybody's behavior or conduct?
Well, the basis for morals in the Bible, or anywhere else for that matter, throughout life, throughout the experience of mankind on this planet, has been the experience of social life. Humankind has certain characteristics. We are generally weak and ineffectual animals, but we can protect ourselves and we can succeed by coming together, by cooperating with each other. And out of that cooperation, these are objectively, there is objectively measurable evidence to support.
How can you have objective evidence when all the panelists all agree that you don't believe in any absolutes?
Well, absolutes have nothing to do with it.
Well, how can you ground something as objective if there's no absolute? If everything is changing and nothing is absolute, how can you have any objectivity at all?
I don't see the contradiction here.
No, if you have no absolutes, then everything is simply a sea of change. You have nothing to ground objectivity in.
That's
The
not
universe
true.
is a sea of
That's
change.
simply not true, so there's no point in explaining why one needs objectivity and one needs... wait a minute, let me finish, please. Do I get a chance to finish?
Hold on.
Do I get a chance to finish? Because the question I have for you is, what makes you think that absolutes are necessary in order to have morality and in order to be objective? I think you're simply wrong in your base assumption.
That's not what I said.
I beg your pardon? You asked me, how can I be objective and how can I have morality if I don't have absolutes? And I'm asking you, what makes you think you need absolutes? Well, what did you say? Can you repeat it in 25 words or fewer?
Yeah, and you were moralizing about other people's behavior in context of what you liked or didn't like. I said, how can you have objective morality? I didn't ask you how you could have morality. I said, if there are no absolutes, you have no basis or ground.
Okay, well then I'll rephrase the question. What makes you think it's necessary to have absolutes in order to have objective morality? Your basic assumption is wrong. Why don't you prove to me that there's some necessary nexus between the two?
So my basis assumption is wrong, that without any absolute, you can make a definitive statement. How would, if you don't have anything that is absolute that you're reasoning from, then all your assertions are without ultimate basis, sir.
That's an argument by assertion, Duncan.
How can
you make an argument? Can you give us some proof for that other than assertions?
Yeah, it necessarily follows with the rejection that something is fundamentally absolute and unchanging, that you can therefore make a statement of the case that something is without it not necessarily being.
That's an argument by assertion.
I have a question for you. I'm assuming that you think the Bible is absolute.
I didn't mention the Bible. I'm asking the gentleman.
I'm asking you, do you assume that the Bible is absolute?
Okay, I believe that the Bible is the absolute authority, but I didn't raise that issue. The issue.
I know you didn't, but I'm trying to find out something.
At least we have a concrete example of the Bible being absolute.
So as a disobedient son, your parents have a right to kill you.
Okay. Well, first of all, what I'd like to know is, how can you assert that something is the case when you have no ultimate foundation for anything? Can you answer that?
It's a social agreement. Have you ever heard of a social contract?
You're not understanding it.
I'm understanding exactly what you're saying.
If there are no absolutes, how can you assert that anything is the case? Can you explain that?
I think so.
Listen, Duncan, we've explained it a dozen times, and it never seems to satisfy you, and you won't ever give us a straight answer. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be back after a few words about atheists of Florida.
Straight answer.
Yeah, right.
For my question.
8 Okay.
Antonio's on the line.
Well, you're listening to the Atheist Forum on the Tan Talk Radio Network, and one of our listeners would like to check in with us, comment, or insult us, or whatever. Go ahead.
Welcome.
Antonio, thanks for calling.
How you guys doing today?
Okay.
Fine, thank you.
Hope you're well.
You too, I hope.
Yeah,
What's
I just
up?
want to comment on
We
like
got an
one
hour.
of the previous callers. You said for one of the previous callers that he couldn't really make any absolutes or anything like that. My question is like, or he doesn't have to have absolutes or something like that. Is that what you said?
I said, I asked him what made him think that it was necessary in order to have absolutes, in order to have an objective morality, which is the question he keeps asking us. And so I asked him, well, just give us the answer. You know, I don't know the answer. I don't even care. But if you'll give us the answer, we'll all be better off. He never seems to get around to that. Maybe you know the answer. I don't.
Well,
Why is it required to have a belief in absolutes in order to have objective morality? I don't see why there's a connection required.
Well, the reason why that is because if you don't have any absolutes, then no statement can ultimately, and that's the key word, no statement can ultimately mean anything.
Well, of course, every statement means something. I mean, if you consider that we live in a universe which is just packed full of change, we ourselves are the creatures of change. We were born, we're going to die. We live in a society which is always changing, which is fortunate because we like to think that we're moving from a time of poverty into perhaps a time of prosperity, from a time of ignorance to a time of knowledge, and so forth. And we can control these things. And we do so by cooperating together, and from that arises a system of morality, how we treat each other. And I'm sure you would see that there's a distinct advantage in being able to reckon our actions according to the benefit to our fellow human beings and how we behave toward each other. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, in the concept of my worldview, we can account for something like that in the Christian worldview. But here's what I would ask you. Would you say that meaning can truly exist in a world of spontaneous occurrences?
Well, I don't think it's not a world of spontaneous occurrences. If that were to happen, it would be complete chaos and nothing
Things would be popping into existence right and left.
Yes, you'd have cats and dogs living together.
All right.
Terrible things would happen.
And so I think you're leaning towards the argument that we were created by some sort of being, rather than that we sprang into existence through some consequence of natural phenomena, which we loosely call evolution. Am I correct in that?
Well, all worldviews have what's called a terminus point, or an ultimate basis for how anything exists. So in a sense, you could say that's correct, but, you know, that applies to any particular worldview, whether you're a Christian or not.
Well, we are, in general, if I might characterize us here, all of us here, are materialists. We look out at the world, at the material world, as an adequate and sufficient explanation for everything we see, including ourselves, and how we behave. It's utterly adequate. And as we learn more and more about the world, as you're listening to what we've been talking about here, about the development of civilization from biblical times to the present, we see an evolution taking place. It's taking place even now. So I hope that you'll keep us informed about any discoveries you might make along those lines, because we're constantly making them, and we urge our fellow people, our fellow humans, such as yourself, to keep an eye out and to allow yourself to experience the world of physical reality.
Well, that sounds interesting. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
When you ascertain anything in the natural world, does that require to use your sense perception to analyze these things?
It's all we have, pretty much.
Yeah, how do you do
But,
it?
I mean, X-rays, radio waves are things that you and I can't sense, but we've found ways to establish that they exist.
We can use those things to
We're
our
using them
advantage.
right now.
Yes, exactly. That's why you're hearing us.
And finally, I didn't get a chance to respond to your earlier statement, and that is that if there needs to be some connection between absolutism and belief in absolutism and objective morality, then lacking that, everything we have said to date, for years probably, is meaningless. Now, it may be true that it's meaningless, but not for that reason.
What reason would it be then?
Well, it
You
would be
already
because,
know, then what
because we're
reason
so
would it
damn
be?
dumb we don't know any better. That would be the reason, but there's nothing absolute about that. I think we have another caller standing by, so we're going to...
Would you like a get out of hell free card?
What's that?
Would you like a get out of hell free card? It is transferable.
Yes, it is. Keep it or trade it.
Yes. All right.
Well, I mean,
well said.
if you want the ultimate get out of jail free card, you would have to.
Yeah, well, no sermons. Just leave your phone number with the engineer, and we'll be happy to send you a card. You can use it anywhere you see fit, or see how far you can throw it. Okay?
You'll love it.
And you can throw it even further if you crumple it up first. All right, thanks for calling. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Have a good one.
You too.
You too.
Atheist Forum on the Tan Talk Radio Network. Hello, thanks for calling.
Hey, this is Brojo speaking.
Okay, Brojo?
This is
Welcome.
it.
Well, it's great to speak to you guys. I just have a few questions for you.
All right. Well, one at a time.
Okay. So you guys said that you were atheist and that you believe in pure materialism, which is to say that all that exists is the physical material universe. Does that follow that we are then subject to the laws of physics and chemistry?
I think it does. I mean, it's hard to escape the laws of physics and chemistry, isn't it?
Right. I don't know. How do you break the laws of physics?
And still
Right.
exist.
You're saying we don't usurp them?
We've stolen them in some way?
Usurp them? I don't get it.
I
What do you
don't
mean?
understand.
Yeah, expand on
So
that.
at no point do we violate, do we go beyond them?
We violate the laws of physics? I just said, I don't think it's possible to break the laws of physics, the laws of averages, or it's not possible to break the law of gravity.
Our reactions are just what? We're just pure matter in motion in a sense, right? We're just a piece of moving matter over against a piece of matter that's not moving. Would you agree with that?
Well, I guess what it really boils down to is that we're looking for an explanation that is consistent with our experience of the world as we encounter it. And it seems to me that the first thing that we have, the thing that is most immediate to all of us, and is the stuff of which we ourselves are composed, and that is material. We are all atoms and
So we're just
molecules.
pure.
Yes?
Okay, great. So you just believe that we're just matter in motion, nothing more, nothing less.
Well,
Okay,
that's what
so
the
we're
evidence,
prone-
that's
Right.
what the evidence,
Yes.
as we see it,
Yes.
yes. Uh-huh.
So,
You have
so
some other
we're
evidence, I'd
prone-
love to see it.
We are particularly talkative versions of matter.
Right, so we're just matter in motion. We're speaking matter in motion.
Well-
We're still subject to the laws of physics and chemistry. So your reaction or your statements are only what products of the laws of physics and chemistry. Just whatever you're just saying, whatever the laws of physics require you to say, right?
Well,
You're
the
raising
laws of
subjects
physics
to them.
doesn't mandate what we can say. I mean, we
Maybe one,
we are creatures
maybe
of
one factor involved.
yes, yeah, because we
Anyway,
we also do music and art and
And we also have time constraints, so
Yeah.
you have a point, we'd like to hear it.
Right. Well, so the point is, if you're a naturalist and you believe that all that we are is just, first of all, that exists in the physical material universe, when you believe that, what you're saying is we're subject to those laws. All of our conclusions that we reach because our mind is just chemical reactions, neurons firing back and forth, are pure reactions to the laws of physics and chemistry. And in one sense, if we were able to figure out all the factors that go into our process of thinking, it could be considered predictable, our responses. If that's the case, if naturalism is true in that our minds are subject to the laws of physics and chemistry, then we have no reason to believe naturalism is true. It's just the laws of physics and chemistry requiring our brains to believe it, right? And so the reason I'm a Christian is just that my brain fits in one particular manner and your brain fits in another. So if your position is true, you have no reason to believe your position is true. You're just required to do so.
Well, fortunately, the laws of physics and chemistry are manifested in phenomena that are so extraordinarily complex that it can incorporate a total human personality. Everything we think, all of our memories, all of our abilities, everything we make and everything we see and hear and sense is part of the physical universe and needs no other explanation. It doesn't mean
They're just
it doesn't mean that we are the playthings of an indeterminate and impersonal matter. We are the persons who are in matter, and we can, to some extent, we've learned how to control our own world, and so it's a reward.
So I think you're arguing then, but I think you're arguing that there's some sort of deity involved, or ought to be involved. And if that's the case, am I correct that you're arguing in favor of a deity or a divine creator?
I haven't brought up any deity or a divine creator. In fact, I haven't argued for that. What I've simply said is that.
I know what you simply said, but I'm asking you, are you making, is that some argument in favor of creationism?
What I'm arguing in favor of is if naturalism is true, argumentation is impossible because arguments assume that there's a method by which we can reason. But if naturalism is true, there is no reason. It's just chemical reactions firing back and forth because they're prone to follow the law.
Well, that's a bad analogy, and it's not true. And because if it were true, you'd be hearing nothing but gibberish, just like we're hearing.
Oh, okay.
Well, Bojo, we want to thank you for calling, and certainly you have displayed great facility with rhetoric and logic and rationality.
What's your
And we have
relationship to
continue
Duncan?
to develop that.
What's your relationship to Duncan? I mean, it's no coincidence that every week now we get 3 calls in a row, and they're all on the exact same topic. Are you Duncan?
Well, I don't believe that I am.
You don't believe that you are? You don't know for sure. Are you in some way related or associated with
No,
Duncan?
I'm not in any way related.
Never
to
met him?
Duncan.
Not his brother-in-law? Nothing like that?
I've listened to him calling on the show. I'm not his
Okay.
brother-in-law.
All right, fine. No, I
I'm
appreciate it.
willing
I
to
appreciate
believe
it.
him. That's
You
fine.
know, I'm gullible. Okay. As Phil
Anyway,
Silver said.
we have fun here, and we hope that you do too.
Yeah, no, we appreciate the call.
Well, we have about 5 minutes left on the Atheist Forum and 10 Talk.